Stop trying to get back to the old you. She doesn't exist anymore. What you've been through, what you've experienced has changed you. You're different now. You're wiser, you're much smarter. You understand people differently now. Your worldview has changed. You're also not into the same things anymore. Different things excite you now, like expanding your creativity and connecting with God, and expressing yourself out loud is now freeing. You are not the same person anymore. You've changed and you've grown. You are a whole new you, and it's time you start to accept her. Trust me, she's super cool. People are like plants, and just like plants, people have optimal environments and temperatures in which they can grow. There are conditions that allow us to fully bloom into our essence. A safe space is like an optimal condition. It's a place where we find ease and comfort in abundance. Safety is found in people, places, and things. This letter to my younger self is called Find Your Safety. In order to find and flourish within a space, we have to first recognize what a safe space consists of. Now, a safe space is going to look different for everybody. We all have different needs. We all came from different households, and so what makes us feel safe is different. A safe space is where you feel emotionally, mentally, and physically protected. And protected in the sense that your well-being is simply valued and respected. So, what does a safe space look like for you? Let's get into it. Well, first and foremost, a safe space for me is somewhere I can feel myself. It's somewhere I can show up and be authentically me with all the different sides of myself, where all my sides are accepted and respected. Growing up, this was difficult for me because in general, I have a lot of different sides to myself. There's the side that is super goofy and wants to crack jokes 24/7, doesn't take life seriously. And then there's the side of me that is kind of very spiritual and loves God. And so that side is a little bit more serious about life and serious about things that other people don't take so seriously. And another part of my personality or who I am is someone who's very focused and driven and ambitious. And so there's so many different sides of myself, and my younger self, my high school Abby, didn't really understand how I could exist within all three in all spaces. Oftentimes I would get around certain people and show up fully as one side of myself, and then I would get around other people and show up fully as a different side of myself. And I felt like I didn't really have a space where I could be all sides of me, where every aspect of who I was and everything that made me me was accepted. And so the advice I would give my younger self is be brave enough to be you in all of your essence. There are people that are going to love and respect all of you. There are people that are going to see the contrast in your personality and the contrast in who you are, and see that with so much value. And I think it wasn't until later in my teens that I started meeting people that did see that did, make me feel comfortable. And I think there's a fine line between finding spaces that we feel we can show up authentically and kind of battling with the internal dialogue that we have, if that makes sense. Because I think a lot of times it isn't necessarily that there aren't spaces that are safe, but just that we have a fear of it not being safe. And so you kind of really have to play that mental battle, like kind of decipher, okay, is this a safe space, or is this space not safe, or am I just afraid to be who I am authentically, right? And we kind of have to work through that. I think a lot of times the best way to work through that is to take that leap of faith and say, you know what, I'm standing firm in who I am, and I'm just going to be me authentically, and we'll see what the response is, right? Like, that's kind of how you have to test and see if a space is safe. Show up as you authentically and see how people react. I know that for me in high school, I kind of had like I was always kind of spiritual and always I loved God, right? And I would feel weird about talking about God with other people. But the more that I did it, the more that I realized that, okay, other people have different views as me. Other people see things differently, but they aren't necessarily judging me, and they aren't necessarily shunning me out of the group because I don't necessarily think the way that they think. It's like, it's fun conversation. We have debates, we have talks, and it's fun. At the end of the day, it's all love, right? Like, those are safe spaces where we can have opposing views but still come to love at the end of the day. And so, word of advice is to be you authentically and allow that to play out and decide, is this a safe space for me? Is this a space where I'm accepted, where all of me, the sides of me, are accepted and respected? Integrity. A safe space is where your integrity is valued. And so before we get into that, let's understand what integrity is. So I have the definition here. Integrity is the quality of being honest and having strong moral principles, moral uprightness. We all have our different morals. We all have the foundation that we stand on, our beliefs about certain topics, our beliefs about life, our beliefs about how we should show up into this world. Now, having integrity is standing on those beliefs and showing up in those beliefs consistently, right? And so a safe space is where that integrity, where your foundation is valued and respected. Not that people agree with your values and your morals. It's almost impossible to get everybody to agree on the same morals, right? That's why we have different religions. That's why we have different philosophies, because there's just a lot going on in this world, okay? But a safe space is where your personal integrity and your character and your value is respected. Oftentimes we get around people that don't have the same integrity as us or don't have the same values as us. And I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. It's good to have contrast. It's good to have nuance. We can bounce ideas off of each other. But when those values aren't respected is where it becomes a little unsafe, because we either do one of two things, right? We either feel attacked and it's like, well, you don't believe in what I believe and I don't believe in what you believe and you're wrong and I'm right, and we have that like conflict, or we hide the parts of us that, we hide certain aspects of us because we're like, well, they don't believe in what I believe and they're going to judge me and say I'm this type of person or I'm that type of person, so I'm just going to hide who I am. And that space automatically becomes unsafe because you can't even be who you are in ease. And so I think a space where our integrity is respected is a place where it's safe, and that is not easy to find. I know in my younger years, the more that I decided to show up as who I was and to talk about the things that I would talk about instead of just like keeping it quiet, the more that I started to connect and bring people who respected my values, that respected my integrity. Didn't necessarily agree, but they respected it. And I didn't necessarily agree with how they saw life, but I respected it. And I think a great example is me and my best friend Elise. We always say like the fact that we are friends is so crazy because we are total opposites when it comes to like everything. We believe in completely opposite different things, right? And for some reason we're able to talk about everything. Like there is no conversation, there's no topic that's off the limits. And through those conversations we always come to a centering idea of, okay, I hear what you're saying. I don't agree, but I hear what you're saying. And like, you're not wrong for thinking that. I just don't think that way. And she'll say the same thing, vice versa. And we have created an environment where our friendship is so safe because we're allowed to say whatever we want. We're allowed to express however we feel. We're allowed to show up in our authenticity and know that our authenticity, regardless of what it sounds like to the other person, it's valued, it's accepted, it's respected. And I think I would encourage like anyone who's a little bit younger, maybe in high school or like trying to find their circle, trying to find their people, like be around the people that respect differences. There's nothing worse than being around people that, just point the finger and say you're wrong and you're right. Like, you can be wrong and you can be right, but we can still be friends. We can still hang around each other, right? That's what safety is for me, is we don't have to be the same, we don't have to look the same, but you accept me and I accept you. You know what I mean? It sounds kind of like fairy tale, but it exists, and I've seen it within my life and I've seen it within my friendships, so it's definitely possible. I read a quote that said, encouraging someone to be entirely themselves is the loudest way to love them. And that just resonates, that resonates with me so much, and that literally relates to like integrity. The loudest way to love someone is by encouraging them to be who they are, right? Because not only are you loving them for who they are, I feel like people love themselves when they are who they are, like in that freedom. Your self-love elevates as well. And so let's make that a point to like encourage people to be who they are. Let's love others by showing them that they can love themselves entirely. The good, the bad, the ugly, not over identifying with the bad or the ugly, but still recognizing like, this is me, and like, this is how I am today. This is me in the present day. Last but not least, a safe space is where you feel filled, not drained. Now, I know we all know this feeling when you're around certain people, right? I don't know why, and I don't know like how this happens, but you're around certain people, and by the end of the interaction, you just feel like, ugh. Oh my God, that conversation was draining. Oh my God, that was like, I felt like I've just been awake for 36 hours, man. This person just took the life out of me. I can't give you the science, I can't explain it. I don't know, maybe we gotta do our Googles. You let me know what you find. But I know that there are certain people that we feel the complete opposite with, where we're around them for 5 minutes and we have like a 5-minute interaction, a 5-minute conversation, and we're like, whoa, breath of fresh air. Oh my gosh, like, you're amazing. You feel me. We vibe on a different level. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the vibes. I don't know. But be around people that make you feel filled rather than drained. And my kind of understanding of this is that the people that make you feel drained are usually places that aren't necessarily safe, right? Like, there's something there that maybe we're not getting what we need. And now this is not to put the blame or put everything on the other person, right? Like, we have to have the self-awareness to be like, okay, what is it about this interaction? What is it about this person that makes me feel unsafe, that makes me feel kind of drained? Is this something that I can like communicate and maybe be like, hey man, every time you do this, it makes me feel this way. How can, we figure something out? Because like, I think you're a good person, but I don't know, I get this feeling every time we have a conversation about this subject, or there's little things that trigger us to feel like, just want to hide, right? And so I think it's having the level of self-awareness to recognize those things and communicate it, like bravely communicate it, even when it feels uncomfortable. But then also recognizing that like some people are just not safe spaces for you. Like, you can communicate that all you want sometimes, but different people are for different people, and sometimes we communicate it, things don't change, and we just have to chalk it up to, hey man, like, we just don't really mix well together. Like, this happens in friendships, this happens in relationships, this happens in any type of connection, right? And so just make it a point to really find your people that you feel loved around, that you feel filled around, because there are people like that out there. There are people that you can just freely be yourself around and feel filled with. You don't have to hang around people that drain you all the time. A safe space is where people are encouraging, where there's a certain vibrancy about life, where there's a level of positivity, where people inspire you. A safe space is somewhere where there's a give and a take. It's not about you make me feel safe or you don't make me feel safe, and so get out of here. It's a balance of give and take, where I do what makes you feel safe and you do what makes me feel safe. And sometimes that happens naturally, and sometimes it takes a little bit of work to get there, right? And this is in all types of connections, not just romantic and not just friendship, even in work relationships, this applies. Like it's always a balance of give and take. We don't want to expect everyone to feed us with comfort and safety, right? If we expect that, we have to be also willing to give that, and sometimes we have to give that before we receive it. Ooh, that, hello. There was this quote actually that says that something along the lines of like, someone who is fearful, okay, it was talking about fear, and it was saying that someone who is fearful cannot be benevolent, meaning good, or, you know, with good intentions, because benevolence is not guaranteed for return, right? Like me being a good person does not come with the guarantee that other people are going to be good back to me. But that in its essence is what benevolence is. It's a giving, right? It's a giving from our heart, from the posture of our heart to genuinely just give. But anyways, we're getting into like a whole other subject. So let's reel it back in. Safety. That is pretty much all I had to say about safety. Definitely comment down below what spaces feel safe to you, what you've learned about yourself, about certain spaces that, you know, encourage you to be better versions of yourself, or certain spaces that make you feel drained or not so safe, and what kind of, you know, ideas or revelations you've come upon through that journey of finding safety. But anyways, give this video a like and subscribe. Check out my other socials, because I make content over there and you guys should check it out. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Have a blessed and beautiful day. Love and life. Life and love.